The morning started quiet, like most mornings at the general's small home near the edge of town. A soft light moved across the porch as the sun came up, and the air felt clean from last night's light rain. The general opened the door, rolled out in his wheelchair, and set a warm cup of tea on the side table. He liked tea more than coffee now. It was easier on his stomach, and it kept his hands calm. He watched birds hop on the lawn, and he listened to the slow rhythm of a distant train. It was a simple start, and simple felt good to him most days. He had learned to arrange his life like a careful map. The ramp by the front door was smooth and wide. The hallway was clear, with no boxes or rugs to block the wheels. The kitchen had low shelves, and the bathroom had firm rails, polished and strong. He could slide from chair to bed, from bed to chair without strain. He wore a watch that beeped softly at certain hours, reminding him to stretch his fingers, check his posture, and take a short breathing break. These little habits were like kind friends. They kept him honest and steady without making too much noise. People in town greeted him with respect and a quiet warmth. He did not ask for special attention, and he did not need a long speech about his past. A nod from the mail carrier, a wave from the neighbor, and a quick chat with the lady who ran the corner store were enough. He liked hearing the small news. A new cat on Oak Street, a good harvest of lemons, a school play going well. He found that the little stories of daily life were the healthiest kind of stories. They kept him grounded. They reminded him that he was part of a living place, not an empty room. On Tuesdays, he went to the base museum. The museum had wide doors and bright light, with exhibits that showed uniforms, maps, letters, and photographs. He volunteered as a guide for a few hours, moving slowly from one case to the next, speaking with visitors about teamwork, planning, and patience. He told them about the feeling of trust between people who work together under pressure. He did not tell dramatic details. He did not raise his voice. He used gentle words, and he chose moments that were about coordination and care, not about fear. Visitors listened, nodded, and asked practical questions. He liked that. Sometimes a school group arrived, full of curious faces. The children tended to ask simple and very good questions like, "How did you stay calm?" and "What did you do when you missed your family?" He would smile at those questions. He explained that calm is a habit, and habits grow when you practice them every day. He said that missing people is a sign of love, and love is strong, so it can hold you together while you work. He never hurried his answers. He looked at their eyes and tried to answer each person with care. It felt like a useful gift to give. The general's family lived nearby. His daughter visited on Sundays with her own little boy who loved toy cars and crayons. The boy would line up cars on the porch railing and say, "This one wins," as if the porch were a long road. The general would cheer for the winner every time, even if it was the same car again and again. His daughter helped with groceries, checked the ramp, and tightened the bolts on the grab bars once a month. She worried a little, but the general smiled and told her that worry is just energy looking for a job. "Give it a job," he would say. "Let it remind you to breathe, to plan, to ask for help when you need help." In the living room, near the door, there was a neat pair of old boots. They were polished but never used now. He had kept them, in good condition out of respect and also out of hope. He did not speak about that hope, not even with family. He simply liked to see the boots standing where shoes should stand, like a quiet promise from another time. Sometimes, when the house was completely silent, he would rest his hand on the top of one boot and close his eyes. He did not ask for anything in that moment. He just stood inside the memory of balance, the memory of being tall, the memory of looking across a room while everyone else was standing too. It had been many years since he last put weight on his legs, and many people around him had made peace with that fact. He had too, in a way. He accepted the chair as a trusted tool, not an enemy. He kept his wheels clean, his bearings smooth, and his cushion firm. He learned to move with grace, turning corners with a small, even push. At the museum, his path between exhibits was smooth and practiced. At home, his path from bedroom to porch was almost like a dance. Chair, break, turn, reach, slide, breathe. He found satisfaction in the clean lines of that routine. Still, the mind has rooms that the day does not always visit. The general kept one small room in his mind where another life still lived. It was a life with simple standing moments. At a window, at a stove, at a small table while sorting stamps, at a concert where the audience rose to applaud. These were not big scenes. They were everyday things, and that was why he wanted them. He did not need a mountain. He wanted a step. He did not need to walk a mile. He wanted to stand for a few steady breaths, like a person waiting for the kettle. To sing. He had tried different kinds of therapy years ago. He worked with kind people who knew their craft. He made progress in some areas, better posture, less tension, smoother transfers, but standing had not returned. Time rolled forward. New projects began. The museum, the garden, the porch, the school visits. He learned to let attempts rest when they needed rest. He learned to thank his body for what it could do instead of scolding it for what it could not do. This gentle voice inside him was a skill he was proud of. It did not appear overnight. It grew like a small tree, watered by patience. Neighbors were part of his life, too. Mr. Lopez next door liked to talk about tomatoes. The general listened and asked questions. They traded helpful items now and then. A bowl of sugar, a roll of tape, a folder of old newspaper clippings. Conversation flowed easily. Now and then Mr. Lopez would say, "You ever think about trying those new special braces?" And the general would smile and answer, "I think about many things. Some ideas are like birds. They come, they rest, they fly away, and maybe one day they return." Mr. Lopez would nod and change the subject to the weather or the price of bread. It was a kind rhythm between friends. On the wall near the kitchen clock hung a calendar from the base museum. It had photos of historical displays and notes about upcoming events. One small note in the corner of the month caught his eye. Anniversary week, honor ceremony. He read it and felt a light pull in his chest. He thought of young service members receiving new stripes, proud families taking photos, and the moment when people stand to clap. He did not wish for a stage or a spotlight. He only wished for that quiet, private feeling of being on his feet during a single minute of applause. He let the thought pass through him and did not hold it too tightly. He had learned not to crush a wish with the weight of time. Later that afternoon, he rolled to his bookshelf and took down a thin notebook. It had plain brown covers and a short title written in neat letters, "Steady Notes." In it, he kept records that were not dramatic. Hours of sleep, small stretches, how his back felt after a day at the museum, how his hands liked the new cushioned gloves he had bought for pushing the wheels. He wrote down a few lines. Tea, birds, train, museum tomorrow, check walker grip. He kept a walker in the hall even though he did not use it. He made sure the rubber tips were new every year. Some people might call that silly. He called it respectful. The walker was a partner, whether or not it worked today. Evening brought cool air and a silver moon above the quiet street. The general's daughter called to say good night. The little boy shouted, "Good night, Grandpa," and asked if the red car had won again. "Yes," the general said, smiling. "It won by a nose." After the call, he sat for a while in the living room and listened to a radio program about gardens. A calm voice spoke about soil and seeds, about waiting for roots to take hold, about how plants do not rush but still move forward all the time. The general liked that picture, steady growth without noise. He turned off the radio and let the room be silent. Silence can be full, he thought, not empty. Before bed, he wheeled to the door and looked at the boots again. The leather caught a soft shine from the porch light. He remembered how boots feel on stone, how a floor speaks through the soles, how balance begins in the feet and rises gently up the body like a calm line. He did not let the memory ache. He let it be a friend. He locked the door, checked the kitchen, and took his time with the bedtime routine. Steady hands, careful moves, a slow stretch that he knew by heart. He shifted into bed, set his watch alarm for morning, and placed the notebook where he could reach it easily. Night wrapped the house. The general rested on his side and breathed in a slow pattern he had practiced for years. In the quiet, a few thoughts passed by like small boats on a dark river. He did not chase them. He did not push them away. He allowed them to float. The museum, the calendar note about the ceremony, a memory of a hallway where he once stood while a friend spoke. He drifted toward sleep with a sense that life was still moving, still offering small paths, even when those paths were not yet clear. He did not need to know the shape of tomorrow. He only needed to arrive, to greet it, and to do the next honest thing. Morning would come again, and with it, the strong comfort of routine. He would roll onto the porch, set down a cup of tea, and listen for the train. He would keep his appointments at the museum. The museum doors opened wide at 9, and the general rolled in with the same even pace as always. He greeted the front desk, nodded to the custodian, and checked the small list he kept on a clipboard. Sunlight fell across the glass cases, and the flags along the back wall stood still. It was a calm morning, with the kind of quiet that helped people listen. A few visitors read plaques. A school group was due in an hour. The general liked the hour before a tour. It let him breathe and set the tone. A new soldier stepped inside not long after, uniform neat, eyes kind. He paused before a display that showed a map, a compass, and a worn notebook. He read the small plaque out loud in a soft voice. He did, not rush. He looked like the kind of person who reads to learn, not to finish. When he noticed the general nearby, he offered a warm smile and said, "Good morning, sir." The general returned the smile and said, "Good morning. First time here?" The soldier nodded. "Yes, I heard this place explains the quiet side of service, teamwork, planning, good habits." They walked the display with words. The general spoke about how small tools help big goals, a map well folded, a pencil that writes in the rain, a notebook that holds clear notes. The soldier listened with care. He asked simple questions that showed real interest. He did not ask about the general's chair or his injury. He asked about how people stay steady when a day is long. He asked how teams agree on signals. He asked how to make a plan that is both strong and flexible. The general liked his questions. They were the right size. When the school group arrived, the soldier stepped back to give space. The general guided the tour with his usual gentle voice. He asked the children to notice small details, like the stitch on a sleeve or a mark on a compass wheel. He told them patience is a skill, and skills grow with practice. He kept the tone simple and hopeful. The soldier watched from a distance and noticed how the general lowered his shoulders during pauses, how he took careful breaths, how he turned the chair with a light, even push at each corner. After the tour, the soldier drifted back. He offered to carry a folder to the office. The general accepted the help and led the way. The hall was long and bright. The soldier did not rush ahead or hover behind. He matched the general's pace the way a good partner does on a walk. When they reached the office, the soldier set the folder down and said, "Sir, I hope this is not too forward, but I noticed your posture work and your breathing timing. It reminds me of something I learned while helping at a rehab clinic before I enlisted." The general sank the chair brakes and looked at the soldier with calm interest. "Tell me," he said. The soldier explained that he had helped his aunt at a local clinic during college. He learned about safe transfers, seated core work, ankle activation, and breathing patterns that support the body during strain. He did not present himself as a therapist. He did not claim special skill. He spoke with humility. "I am not here to promise anything," he said. "But sometimes a fresh plan, with tiny goals and careful notes, can invite small changes. If you ever want a hand with that, I would be honored." The general had heard many offers in the past. Some were kind but rushed. Some were big on hope and light on plan. This one felt different. It was gentle, specific, and honest. The general asked a few questions. What did the soldier mean by tiny goals? How would they measure comfort? How would they stop if something felt wrong? The soldier answered plainly. Tiny goals mean seconds, not minutes. Angles, not distance. Comfort means your report first, then what we see, and we choose a stop word. If you say it, we stop. No debate. Your body is the leader. They stepped outside for air and settled, in the shade near the museum entrance. The day had warmed, and a faint breeze moved the flag. The general spoke about his routine, about the careful map of his house, about the steady notes he kept in the brown notebook. The soldier listened, without interrupting. He held the small space between sentences with respect. When the general finished, the soldier said, "This is already strong. You have good habits and good records. May I visit your home to see your setup? I would like to learn the real paths you take, so we can design steps that fit your life." The general considered this. He liked that the soldier wanted to fit the plan to the person, not the other way around. He also liked that the soldier did not try to set a big date or promise a result by a certain week. He chose to say yes. "Come by tomorrow afternoon," he said. "We will have tea on the porch. Then we will look at the rooms." The soldier thanked him, offered a simple handshake, and said, "I will be there at 3. And I will bring paper, not just a phone. Some plans are better on paper." The next day, at 3, the soldier arrived in a clean shirt and soft shoes. He brought a folder, a tape measure, a small angle tool, and a pen. They sat on the porch first. Tea steamed in 2 cups, and a bird tapped at a branch. The soldier asked about the general's sleep, water intake, and morning stiffness. He asked when the general felt most steady during the day. He asked which chair felt best. He asked what music or sound the general liked when he worked. The general answered with clear, simple words. He liked morning best. He liked quiet. He liked a soft metronome on low volume. They walked the house with careful eyes. The soldier took measurements of the hallway and the space between grab bars. He checked the height of the bed, the firmness of the cushion, the reach to the side tables. He looked at the walker tips and nodded with approval at their clean rubber. He asked to see the old boots by the door. The general brought them out with both hands. They stood together and looked at the boots in the light. The soldier said, "These are beautiful. We will honor them with safe work. Steps are steps. Even small steps count." At the kitchen table, they made a plan. The first phase would be seated activation, ankle pumps with breath, gentle hip shifts, core holds for 5 counts, shoulder relaxation between efforts. The soldier drew boxes on paper, exercise name, count, comfort level, notes. He wrote in neat block letters so the general could read easily. They decided on a simple scoring system for comfort, a smile for good, a line for okay, a dot for tough. There would be no push beyond okay. They would always stop at the first sign of tough, unless the general chose to finish a count for calm. They also agreed on safety. The soldier suggested they choose a stop word. "Something you say often," he said. The general smiled. "Porch," he decided. "The porch is where I breathe best." The soldier wrote porch at the top of the page in big letters and drew a box around it. "If you say this word," he said, "we stop at once. No extra rep, no argument. We rest and we take notes." The general liked the clarity. He liked that the stop word was a promise, not a test. The soldier asked if they could form a small support circle. "Nothing loud," he said. "Just a few people who can help us get the right tools." He knew a base welder who could widen a walker frame and add a smooth handbar that did not dig into the palms. He knew a tech who could print custom foot support so the general's feet would rest in a neutral angle during seated work. He knew a medic who could advise on skin care, rest breaks, and safe timing. The general agreed. "Teamwork is smart," he said. "We will keep it quiet and steady." They set the first training time for 2 days later, mid-morning, when the general felt most fresh. The session would be at home, in the living room, near the strong rails and the wide space. The soldier would bring a harness for seated safety and a soft metronome tone on his phone. He would also bring a timer that showed seconds as a slow circle filling in, so the general could see progress without reading small numbers. The general wrote the appointment in his steady notes and drew a small star beside it. Before the soldier left, they returned to the porch for one more cup of tea. They did not talk about grand results. They talked about small signs: less shoulder tension after 5 ankle pumps, easier breath after a core hold, a smoother transfer from chair to bed. The soldier said, "We will celebrate seconds and angles. We will not measure ourselves against miles. We will measure against yesterday." The general looked at the street where a cat sat under a car and said, "I like that. It is the right size for real life." That night, the soldier went back to his quarters and reviewed the notes. He planned the order of exercises and the length of rests. He checked the harness straps, the buckles, and the padding. He tested the timer and the metronome tone. He wrote a short letter to the base welder and the tech, asking for help with the walker bar and foot supports. He used simple language, clear measures, no rush. He knew that plans move faster when no one pushes. He slept well, with a calm sense that this work was honest and useful. At the general's house, the evening routine went on with its usual gentle rhythm. The general checked the bolts on the rails, swiped the floor to make sure there was no dust, and wiped the walker tips so they would grip well. He set the brown notebook on the side table and placed a pen on top. He looked at the boots by the door and nodded to them like old friends. He did not speak to them. He did not need to. He simply honored their place and their promise. The next day, he visited the museum again and did a short tour. As he spoke, he noticed the soft awareness that lives in the body before a change. It felt like standing on a dock and seeing a boat, coming from far away. You could not ride it yet, but you could see it, and the next week settled into a calm rhythm that felt both new and familiar. The general and the young soldier met 3 mornings in a row at the same time, in the same quiet room with the same tea. They kept the same order. Review the plan. Check. The harness. Breathe. Begin. The sameness was not boring, it was reassuring. It told the body, "You are safe here." It told the mind, "We will move a little, and then we will rest." They started with ankle work. The soldier sat at eye level so they could talk without either person looking up or down. "Ankles first," he said softly, setting the metronome low. 4 pumps on the right, 4 on the left, then we write 1 note. The general moved his feet slowly, matching breath to motion. The angle tool showed a small change, just a few degrees, but the soldier smiled as if someone had opened a window. "That is a good start," he said. "We are telling your body the story of forward again." Hips came next. The soldier placed one hand near the chair back, not touching, just ready. "A finger's width," he said. "We shift, then rest." The general shifted his weight as if moving toward a distant door, then back to center. The timer showed 8 seconds of gentle hold. They rested for 20 seconds, checking shoulders and jaw. The general's voice was even. "Jaw relaxed," he said. "Shoulders down." The soldier wrote a small smile symbol in the notes and a simple sentence. 8 seconds felt steady. Between sets, they talked about ordinary things: the weather, the museum schedule, the neighbor's tomato plants. Small talk was not filler. It was part of the method. It kept the mind from gripping the work too tightly. It kept the room human. On the second day, the base welder visited with a wide walker frame wrapped in soft cloth. He stood in the doorway like a polite guest, not a loud helper. The frame had been adjusted so the general could bring his body forward without bumping his knees. The hand bar was smooth and slightly angled, easy on the palms. "I gave it round edges," the welder said with a small grin. "Round edges are friendly." They set the walker near the rail and thanked him. The general touched the hand bar with respect, as if greeting an old friend who had learned a new language. The tech arrived the next afternoon with custom foot supports. They were simple and clean, shaped to hold the general's feet in a neutral angle during seated work. "This will help your ankles learn the same story every time," the tech said, placing them carefully on the floor. The general tried them and felt how his heels rested without rolling. "Consistent," he said. "I like consistent." Chew. Soldier made a note. Feet neutral, less drift, rhythm smoother. Not every moment felt smooth. On the third morning, after a strong start, the general felt lightheaded during a hip shift. The room did not spin, but the air seemed a bit thinner, as if a cloud had paused in the doorway. He said the stop word at once, clear and calm. "Porch." The soldier stopped everything, lowered the metronome, and moved the chair slightly back to center. He brought water with a straw and kept his voice soft. "We are okay," he said. "We will sit and breathe." They rested for several minutes. The general's color returned, and they both felt the world settle. "Thank you for the stop word," the soldier said. "That was wisdom." The general nodded. "Safety is speed," he answered, and they both smiled because it was true. After that, they added one new rule. After each set of hip shifts, they would do a porch minute, 60 seconds of easy breathing with eyes on the sunlight outside. The soldier drew a little porch icon in the notes to mark those minutes. The porch minutes did more than ease the body. They also reminded both men that this work was part of a whole day, not a test sealed in a box. There were small wins that felt like great gifts. On the fourth session, the general held a tall, seated posture for 12 seconds without shoulder tension. The soldier marked a small star for that. On the fifth session, the ankle pumps matched the metronome for 2 full rounds on each side, without any foot drift. The tech's foot supports had made a difference. The general felt it. "My feet know where to be," he said. "They're listening." The soldier nodded. Clear paths make calm travelers. The medic stopped by quietly on the 6th day with friendly, practical advice. "Skin checks every day," she said. "Moisture where needed, no pressure points. Set rest goals too, not only work goals. Make rest something you can succeed at." She gave them a simple sheet with a checklist: skin, sleep, water, stretches, mood. The general liked the last line, mood, because it turned feelings into something you could observe without judgment. Each evening, he marked calm, quiet, or tired with a small dot. On 2 days, he wrote light because he felt a soft brightness inside that he could not name. Friends and family noticed the routine without asking for details. Mr. Lopez from next door brought a small basket of lemons and left it on the porch with a note. For tea and for the new plan. Proud of steady things. The general's daughter came by on Sunday and watched from the kitchen doorway as the soldier and her father reviewed notes. She did not interfere. She simply said, "I'm glad you have good company." And the soldier answered, "Your father is the captain of this ship." The daughter laughed softly. "He always was." There were also doubters, not unkind but unsure. One neighbor said, "It has been many years. Are you sure this is not too much?" The general smiled and answered with patience, "We are not chasing big numbers. We are counting seconds and angles. It fits the size of my day." The neighbor nodded, a little relieved, and soon asked about the museum instead. The doubt drifted away like a small cloud. On a rainy morning, the seventh session had to move to the bedroom because the living room felt humid. They adjusted without fuss. The harness fit the same. The metronome sounded the same. The general's ankles moved like slow clock hands, and the soldier watched how his breath stayed even. After the second set, the general said, "I noticed something. When I aim my eyes at a point on the wall, my shoulders relax faster." The soldier underlined that in the notes. "Eyes steady," he read aloud. "Relaxation follows." He drew a tiny dot on the wall, barely visible, and named it the lighthouse. It became part of the method. Find the lighthouse, breathe, then move. On the eighth session, they tried a gentle partial standing in the harness. No steps, no shifting, beyond a breath or two. The soldier triple-checked the straps and the rails. He set the timer to show only a growing circle, not numbers, so time would feel like shape, not speed. The general placed his hands on the walker bar, leaned forward from the hips, and allowed the harness to take part of his weight. The floor felt new and familiar at once under the soles of his shoes. He did not push. He let the feeling arrive. The circle on the timer grew for 3 seconds, then 4, then 5. "Porch," he said softly, not because he was in trouble, but because it was time to rest. They eased him back with care, both men breathing like waves at a shore. The soldier wrote, "First partial stand, 5 seconds, shoulders quiet, mood, light." After that morning, they placed a small note near the boots by the door. 5 seconds. The general did not treat it like a trophy. He treated it like a date on a calendar, a part of a story still being written. That night he slept well, and in the morning, he took a slower sip of tea than usual and looked at the porch railing with a tender kind of pride. Not every session included a partial stand. Some days were all about seated control. The soldier said, "We teach the body consistency. Then the body offers us confidence." They made rules for when to try the harness again. Only after a strong ankle session, only if the lighthouse felt steady, only if sleep the night before had been at least 6 hours. If any condition was weak, they stayed seated and called it a win anyway. They did not let a plan become a pressure. One afternoon, the soldier arrived with a gift from the museum staff, a small, quiet metronome that looked like a tiny pyramid and made a soft, wood-like tick. "They said your calm tours. Help people," he told the general. "They wanted to help you too." The general set the pyramid on the table and listened to its voice. It sounded like a clock in a gentle kitchen. He nodded. "This is a good sound," he said. "It says yes without saying hurry." They began to add micro goals that touched daily life. Standing was not only for training, it was for moments. The general practiced a pin moment, placing both hands on the walker bar, feeling the harness hold him, and imagining himself at the museum during a short recognition. Not long, just enough to attach a pin to someone's lapel without rushing. He did not act out the whole scene, only the posture and breath. The soldier timed a few seconds, then a few more, and then they rested. "This is the size of ceremony we can trust," the soldier said. "Small, safe, real." On the 10th session, a tiny setback visited again. Midway through a hip shift, the general felt a dull tiredness that arrived quick, like a curtain drawn across a window. No dizziness, just a clear, "not now." He said, "Porch." The soldier stopped and suggested they end the work early. "We choose rest with pride," he said. They made tea and reviewed notes quietly. Before leaving, the soldier drew a smile next to the word porch. "Strong choice," he wrote. The general read the words later and felt a deep ease. Success was not only about doing, it was also about stopping with wisdom. As days passed, the numbers in the brown notebook told a story you could touch. Ankle pumps, more even, hip shifts, longer holds than shorter holds by D. Anniversary week arrived like a slow, bright sunrise across the museum calendar. The small typed words, "Honor Ceremony," sat in the corner, steady and calm. The general saw them each morning when he checked the date and made tea. He did, not rush toward the day. He let it travel toward him. The young soldier felt the week too. He trimmed the plan to fit the moment, like a tailor making sure a jacket sits right on the shoulders. "We will keep the rhythm," he said. "Tiny goals, clear notes, a little less work the day before, more rest, more water." The general agreed. He wanted his body to feel like a quiet room with fresh air and open windows. In the days leading up to the event, they refined their routine with simple care. The soldier adjusted the metronome by a breath so the tick matched the general's natural exhale. The tech checked the foot supports and added a thin layer that felt like a soft hand under the arch. The welder wrapped the walker bar with one more layer of gentle grip, easy on the skin. The medic reminded them, "Warm up slowly, cool down slowly, and keep your porch minutes." The circle was small and kind, and it made the work feel safe. Every tool had a place. Every place had a reason. They decided to practice in the museum's side room 2 days before the ceremony. It was a bright room with parallel bars and a clean floor. Nothing flashy, just good light and good space. The soldier carried the tiny pyramid metronome in a small cloth bag, as if it were something fragile and dear. The general rolled in and looked around. He liked the way the air felt in that room. It felt organized. It felt ready. They started, with the same calm steps as always. Tea first, plan review, one small joke about the lighthouse dot. "We brought our own wall," the soldier said, tapping the side room's paint with a gentle finger, and then the warm-up. Ankles woke up with slow pumps. Hips shifted a finger's width. The general named his shoulders, jaw, breath. "Shoulders down, jaw soft, breath steady," he said in a low voice that almost sounded like a poem. The soldier nodded. "Good words," he said. "Your body listens to those words." When it was time to try the harness, the soldier checked every strap twice and then once more, not because he doubted, but because the extra check gave both minds peace. He set the timer to circle only. He placed the metronome where the tick felt like it lived in the room, not on them. He stood close, but not crowded. "We are still in the same method," he said. "Seconds and angles. If your body says stop, we stop. If it asks for a breath, we breathe." The general placed his hands on the walker bar and felt the familiar kindness of its curve. He looked forward and chose a tiny dot on the wall, a new lighthouse, and allowed his body to understand the simple truth of what they were doing. Stand. A little. Rest a lot. Write it down. The first stand that day was quiet and good. 5 seconds, then 6, then a porch, minute by the window, where a small tree moved its leaves in the breeze. The second stand brought a new detail, a softer knee. The general felt the welcome release, like a door hinge oiled for the first time in years. He did not force it. He allowed it. "Knee easy," he said on the exhale. The soldier wrote that phrase in the notes and drew a tiny half-smile face next to it. They stopped soon after, proud of simple work done well. That night, the general slept with a calm heaviness that felt like a safe harbor. His last thought before sleep was not a picture of walking. It was the shape of the timer's circle growing, in slow, patient light. In the morning, he woke with the same sense of order and made tea, then reviewed the plan for the day before the ceremony: light ankle work, gentle posture practice, and extra porch minutes. He smiled at the notebook and wrote a small sentence: "I will arrive as myself." The day before the ceremony, the house felt like a well-tuned instrument. The general moved through his routine the way a good musician moves through scales, not trying to impress anyone, just warming the strings. The soldier arrived with calm eyes and a simple smile. "Today we do less," he said. Less is smart. They kept the session short and sweet. 3 sets of ankles, 2 sets of hips, 1 tall posture hold. Then they did a practice moment. Hands on the walker bar, harness on, 2 seconds of partial stand, then rest. "We will leave the body wanting more," the soldier said. The general liked that. He liked the idea of trust between days. The morning of the ceremony came with clear light and cool air through the trees. The general dressed in a suit that fit his seated frame well, simple and neat. His daughter stopped by to help with the tie. Her hands moved with careful love, and she stepped back to look at him the way you look at a painting you admire. "You are steady," she said, and he answered, "I am ready." The young boy waved a toy car and whispered, "Win, Grandpa," as if the day were a race. The general laughed softly and said, "Today we count seconds, not laps." At the museum, the entry hall buzzed with low voices, but the room where the ceremony would take place felt calm. Staff had set chairs in tidy rows. A small stage stood at the front, not too high. The general greeted a few friends and then rolled to the side room with the parallel bars. The soldier was already there, setting the metronome on the sill. He placed a small folded paper on the table with the day's plan in clear letters. Tea and breath, 2 minutes. Ankles, 4 slow pumps each side. Posture set, shoulders, jaw, eyes on lighthouse. Harness check times 3. Practice stand. 2 seconds only. Rest. Porch, minute by window. Ceremony moment. 1 short stand if body agrees. Notes and gratitude. They moved through the list with the same care they had practiced for weeks. Each step felt familiar, like stepping stones. Across a shallow stream. Nothing rushed, nothing stuck. The practice stand was steady and easy. The porch, minute by the window, brought a view of a cloud that looked a bit like a ship. The general watched it float and felt his breath float with it. A staff member knocked gently. "We are starting in 10, she said. The soldier nodded. He looked at the general and spoke in a voice that was almost a whisper. "We are not here to prove anything," he said. "We are here to honor the work and honor the moment. If your body says no, we sit. Sitting with dignity is also standing in a way." The general smiled at this. "Yes," he said, "we will do what is true." When they rolled into the ceremony room, the sound of people talking gently filled. The air like soft rain. The general took his place near the front, where he would pin a small recognition on a young service member. The soldier stood at the side, quiet, eyes kind, hands easy at his sides. The tiny pyramid metronome stayed in the side room. Its tick now lived in their breath. The program began with welcome words and thank yous. The general listened, not gripping the future, not pulling at it. He let the minutes arrive. Then came the moment. The young service member stepped forward with a calm, proud face. The general rolled closer, set the brake, and placed both hands on the walker bar. He used the posture words, shoulders down, jaw soft, eyes on the lighthouse. This time, the lighthouse was a small mark in the wooden backdrop he had chosen quietly when no one was looking. The soldier stepped closer, not touching, ready in presence, not pressure. "Breath," the general said to himself. He leaned forward from the hips, let the harness gather him, and allowed his feet to feel the floor. The floor answered back. It said, "I am here." The timer was not in the room, but the circle lived inside him now. He felt it grow the way. A dawn grows, a slow widening of light. 1 second, 2 seconds. The knee stayed easy, 3 seconds. The body was calm, 4 seconds. The room was quiet, not with shock, but with respect. 5 seconds. The general moved his hand, steady and sure, and attached the small pin to the young service member's lapel. The motion was simple and complete. He did not try to hold the moment. He did not try to stretch it beyond its honest size. He said the stop word in a soft voice that only the soldier could hear. Porch. Then he eased back with dignity, with the harness doing its gentle job, and returned to the chair. The soldier breathed with him. The young service member swallowed and blinked, not from surprise, but from the weight of kindness. The room stayed, still for a long breath. Then the program continued, calm and warm. No one clapped loudly or shouted. That would have broken the thread. What happened next was not a cheer, but a river of small signs. A mother's hand pressed to her heart, a grandfather's slow nod, a staff member's eyes soft with water. The general's daughter stood in the back and held her son's shoulders, with gentle pride. The boy did not fully understand, but he felt the warmth and squeezed her hand twice. "Win," he whispered again, and this time, "win" meant something quiet and deep. After the ceremony, the general and the soldier went back to the side room for a porch minute, even though the porch was really a window and the metronome was silent. They did not talk at first. They watched a leaf move in the bright air. Then the soldier opened the notebook and wrote one clean line. Ceremony stand, 5 seconds, pin placed, mood, light. He turned the notebook so the general could see. The general nodded. "We will keep the word small," he said. The moment was big enough on its own. People visited them one by one, not crowding. A museum staffer said, "Thank you for your grace." The medic said, "Beautiful pacing." The welder pointed at the walker bar and tapped it with a proud finger, then patted his chest and smiled. The tech looked at the foot supports as if they were quiet heroes. The young service member came last and saw. The morning after the ceremony felt gentle, like a quiet room with the window open. The general woke with the same steady rhythm as always, yet something inside him felt new and calm, as if a door had been left slightly open and fresh air was moving through the house. He made tea, rolled onto the porch, and watched a thin line of light grow along the fence. He did not replay the whole event in his mind. He only thanked it. He placed the tiny pyramid metronome on the table beside the tea, and it looked like a small lighthouse in the early light. The soldier arrived later with a soft smile and a short plan. "Rest day," he said. "We honor the body by letting it absorb the good." They did just that. They reviewed a few notes and added one new line. Ceremony stand felt true. The general liked the word true. It did not mean perfect. It meant honest. It meant the size of the moment matched the size of his strength. In the afternoon, his daughter came by with the little boy and a small box of lemon cookies. She listened without pushing for details. When she heard the simple version, her eyes warmed and she held her father's hand. The boy said, "Win," and lined up cars on the porch rail. The general laughed and made the metronome tick softly, and the boy tapped one finger along with it, as if he were keeping time for the day. The next week returned to the routine, but the routine had a new shade. The general and the soldier kept their steady order, ankles, hips, posture, porch minutes, but they also added tiny checks to notice quiet changes. The soldier asked, "When you set your hands on the walker bar, does the floor feel more friendly?" The general thought for a few breaths and nodded. "Yes," he said. "Friendly is the word." The soldier smiled and wrote it down. Friendly floors, friendly tools, friendly time. These words mattered. They told the body, "You are safe here." A few days later, the welder came by with a small surprise. He had made a light metal strip, no heavier than a ruler, with tiny dots along the side like calm stars. "You can place this on the floor along the parallel bars," he said. "If one day you feel like testing a toe length forward, the dots can help you see it." He did not say, "Walk." He did not push the future into the room. He simply offered a way to see a very short distance. The general thanked him. The soldier set the strip down and stepped back. They both stared at it for a long second. honoring. How small a dot can be and how big a change it can invite. They did not try the dots right away. For 2 sessions, they stayed with posture and breath. The tech adjusted the foot supports, and the medic checked skin and sleep. The soldier kept the metronome soft, like a friendly clock in a kitchen. On the 3rd session that week, the general said, "Today we can meet the dots." The soldier nodded and checked the harness again and again. He placed the metal strip under the parallel bars so the first dot sat exactly where a half shoe length would land. Seconds and angles, the soldier reminded. If your body says stop, we stop. The word is still the word. The general set his hands, leaned gently forward, and let the harness take part of his weight. He looked at the lighthouse dot on the wall, not the dots on the floor. He let his breath lead. After a few calm moments, he shifted his weight a little. The right foot grew curious. It did not jump. It explored. The sole pressed, the knee stayed easy, and the foot moved the smallest distance forward, barely the length of half a shoe. The soldier did not speak. He watched the general's eyes and shoulders. When the general said, "Porch," they rested. They tried once more, and this time the left foot met the first dot too. The soldier wrote one line, toe to first dot, both sides, mood, light. He did not write the word step. The general did not say it either. They both knew language carries weight, and they protected the moment by naming only what had happened. Toes met dots. That was enough, and it was real. At the museum, the general found a new way to open tours. He did not stand each time. He chose his moments. Sometimes he remained seated and spoke about teamwork and patience the way he always had. Sometimes he placed his hands on the walker bar for a few seconds, not to draw attention, but to show a small, steady choice. Visitors felt the calm of it. A child once asked, "How do you make a big change?" The general replied, "You don't. You make many small changes and let them add up." The child nodded, and a teacher wrote that sentence on a small card and pinned it on the board by the exit. The soldier also learned during these weeks. He paid attention to what worked and what did not, and he started collecting the method on one page. The page had a plain title, Calm Plan. It showed the order, T, breath, ankles, hips, posture, porch minutes, harness when ready. It named the stop word and drew a little lighthouse. It reminded the reader to celebrate rest as a success. The soldier asked the general if he could share this page with a few people at the base who might need gentle structure. The general said yes, with one promise. Share it with care. This is not a race. This is a way to be kind to time. The soldier agreed and wrote those words at the bottom of the page. There were days when the dots stayed dots and the feet did not move. That was fine. On one rainy morning, the general's sleep had been thin, and they decided to do only ankle, work, and porch minutes. They set the timer to fill a circle for 1 minute of breath, and then another, and then they made tea. The soldier wrote, "Rainy day, lighter plan, mood, calm." The general read the note later and felt a soft pride. He was proud that he could choose less without feeling less. On a bright afternoon, the daughter visited during a practice. She stood near the window and watched quietly. The little boy sat on a rug and drew a small lighthouse with a yellow crayon and put it on the wall with tape. "Now you have 2, he said, very serious. The soldier and the general smiled. The general placed his hands on the walker bar and did a tall posture hold for 10 seconds. The boy counted, not fast, not slow, and when he reached 10, he looked at his mother with wide eyes. She gave him a gentle thumbs up, and the room felt full of kind air. A few weeks after the ceremony, the boots by the door became part of the rhythm again. The general asked the soldier if they could try standing in boots one day, with the harness and the bars, not for show, just to see how the body remembered the shape of leather and laces. They picked a quiet morning. The soldier helped with the laces, patient and careful. The general settled his feet, felt the ground through the soles, and breathed. When he rose into the harness, the boots told a familiar story to his legs and back. He did not rush. He felt the story and said, "The floor says hello, and the boots say, we remember." They rested and wrote, "Boot stand short" and "good." Sometimes the general gave the soldier a different kind of lesson. On a day when the soldier felt pressure from a busy schedule, the general poured tea and spoke slowly about balance. "You cannot be helpful if you are in a hurry," he said. "Hurry makes the hands clumsy and the voice sharp. Calm makes the hands precise and the voice kind." The soldier listened and took that advice into other rooms, into other tasks, into his own life. He told his aunt at the clinic about the seconds and angles work and about the porch minutes, and she wrote back a short note. "This is care, at the right size. Keep going." The museum staff continued to support them in small ways. The side room stayed open in the mornings for practice. A staff member placed a plant by the window, and it grew toward the light as if showing them how to turn toward what helps. The welder checked the walker bar once in a while and kept it smooth. The tech made a second pair of foot supports just in case. The medic timed her visits to be quick and quiet, always with a new tip like, "Warm your hands before you grip." Warmth helps the message travel. Then, on a simple Sunday at home, a new moment arrived. It was not planned as a grand test. It grew out of a good night's sleep, a strong breakfast, and a clean hallway without clutter. The soldier was there. The harness was there. The metal strip with dots was there. They did ankles and hips and porch minutes as usual. The general stood in the harness between the parallel bars and looked at the lighthouse on the far wall. He let his breath lead. He shifted his weight gently. His right foot moved to the first dot. He rested. Then he shifted again. The left foot moved to the next dot. The soldier watched his eyes, his shoulders, his jaw. The general's face stayed calm and his voice stayed low. "Porch," he said after a few seconds. They eased him, back to the chair, and sat still. No one shouted. No one reached for a camera. They both knew the size of what had happened. It was 2 assisted steps along the bars, safe and honest. The soldier wrote one clean line in the notebook. 2 assisted steps, dots 1 and 2, mood, light. The general traced the line with his finger, then added, "Knees easy." They placed the boots by the door again, as if to say thank you, and made tea. In the weeks that followed, they did not chase steps. They protected the method. Some days were for posture, some days for ankles and hips, some days for porch minutes and breath. From time to time, the general stood for a few seconds at the start of a tour and then sat to speak with his gentle voice. Visitors came not to see a performance, but to feel calm. A volunteer once said, "You teach patience without saying the word?" And the general smiled, because that was the kindest praise he could imagine. The soldier received a quiet note of thanks from the base, recognizing his steady support for a member of the community. He kept the note.